What is going on, y'all? It is your boy, Kaiju Andrew92, coming with you with another review. And yesterday, I saw James Gunn's Superman, of course, the newest Superman movie that just released, starring David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnahan, and Nicholas Hoult. And my initial reactions, you can probably based on the title, I didn't really care for this movie. I didn't really like it. And we'll dive into it and get into it. So I'm thinking for this review, I'm going to section it off with spoiler-free section, and then the spoiler section. I think I have a lot to talk about in the spoiler section, so prepare for that section to be really long. So the non-spoiler part, the movie, like I said, it wasn't for me. It, was very colorful, jokes every 5 seconds, and then James Gunn's fingerprints are all over this movie. And the James Gunnisms. I really like Guardians 1 and 2. I still haven't seen Guardians 3. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just sitting around, Yeah, oh man, it's a lot of action. So I think this movie is made more so for casual audiences than the hardcore Superman fans. And disclaimer, I loved Zack Snyder's the Snyderverse. I love what he did with the with these DC characters and everything. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm going to be comparing not only Zack Snyder's vision of Superman and the DC universe, but also Richard Donner and his Superman as well. So pretty much the movie starts off with Superman. There's a title screen, kind of like almost like a Star Wars movie, just saying like metahumans have been around for 300 years. Superman has been doing this for about 3 years, and then he just lost his first fight in the movie. And then it just deals with Superman losing his first fight, and then kind of the movie just kind of goes from there. But the characters were fine. David Corenswet's Superman, I don't know. He kind of spends the entire, he does spend the entire movie pretty much getting beat up. So as I was driving home, I was thinking, man, in Superman Returns, we went from Superman who didn't punch anybody to Man of Steel, where he punches everybody, to now everybody's punching Superman. So like, I don't know what we're doing. So and then let's see I'm going to focus on what I liked, and then dive in a little bit more what I disliked. I like Mr. Terrific. He pun intended, was terrific. Best part of the movie. Jimmy Olsen was funny. He made me laugh. Jimmy the Rizzler, as I like to call him. Lex Luthor, he was fine. He was okay. I'll talk more about that later in my spoiler section. Lois and Clark's relationship, it was fine. I just, with these movies, I think this movie relied a lot on, if you already know Superman, they just kind of throw you in. It's just their relationship. They're obviously Lois and Clark. They're supposed to be together. This does that and the other. But this particular iteration of Lois and Clark, we don't know. I don't know what they've been through, what they've done, how they got together, like how exactly they got together. So it's kind of jarring where they're like, "I love you, Lois," and then she's all like, "No, I can't tell him how I feel," and it's like, well, I just met y'all like 20 minutes ago, so I don't know. And at least to, Zack Snyder's credit, Man of Steel, they had the whole movie to build up. And then they build on it a little bit more in Batman, Superman, and then it kind of comes together in Justice League. Anyway, what else? And then, Crypto's in the movie. I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, he's a dog. Oh, he's so adorable. I don't know. He's a little unruly for me. I'm not a pet owner, so I can't really relate. But a lot of people are like, oh, my dog's a jerk too. Oh, I get it. I see it. So that, I don't know. It was just a lot of jangling keys, especially with the John Williams score kind of being thoroughly sprinkled in through. Like, oh, hey, remember this? Hey, And then the Justice Gang, you got Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, which First of all, Guy Gardner, really? Like you see Guy Gardner, you just roll your eyes. You have Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart. I mean, those are S tier Green Lanterns, and you went with Guy Gardner. Even Kyle Rayner would have been, an interesting choice. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're going with Kyle Rayner, but, yeah, I don't know. Hot girl. I mean, she was fine. I don't really know. And then I don't know if this is really a spoiler, but I'm just gonna talk about it anyway. So like Lex is, he's upset that Superman's an alien. He's like, he's from outer space. I don't like it. Blah blah blah. I was like, well, isn't Hot Girl also an alien? She's from the planet Thanagar. Why don't you care about her? But I'm just gonna say that in James Gunn universe, she's just a hawk girl, not from outer space. So yeah, she was fine. Her screeching in the movie like a hawk kind of annoyed me, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. But my boy, Mr. Terrific, now, that's my boy right there. He was funny. He was honestly like me during the movie. He like something was happening. He'd be like, "What? What do you mean? You crazy?" And then he was the most sensible one of the movie. It might as well have been the Mr. Terrific movie because he was great. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm just kind of rambling and stuff. And man, and especially what they did to Jor-El, dude. Come on. Again, I'll get to that in my spoiler section. There's gonna be plenty of that. So yeah, but basically, a conflict arises between Jiran Hanpor and then I don't know the name of the other country. Was it Corto Maltese? I don't know. These fictional DC cities that they established, which is totally not Israel and totally not Palestine. I think that's what I'm going to call them going forward because I don't remember the name. And then Superman steps in and then saves it. Saves the not Israel from invading not Palestine, and then that causes a big issue. It's like, even Lois Lane tells him, it's in the trailer, so it's in there. It's like, you entered a country illegally. What gives you the right to do that? Blah blah blah. And then Superman, of course, like, well, it's the right thing to do. People are going to die. And it's like you can see both sides. Like, well, Superman, somebody needed to step in and save people's lives, but at the same time, there's the optics of that. So, So yeah, that pretty much kicks off the whole movie, and then Lex Luthor's plot. He wants to kill Superman. And of course he does. He hates him. But I don't know. Lex's motivation isn't really established, like why he hates him. Pretty much it's like he's an alien and I don't trust him. I'm like, well, you gotta give me a little more than that. But of course I'm saving that for the spoiler section. So. Yeah, lots of fights. I mean, there's even one scene where he fights a freaking kaiju, and the Justice Gang helps him out, and then yeah, all that. So, but yeah, I don't want to make the spoiler or the non-spoiler section too long. Yeah, overall thoughts. This movie isn't for me. It just wasn't for me. I don't know, there was just a lot of questions. Like, if you were a comic fan, like I am with Superman, Superman's, like, lore and established, like, okay, he's going to do this, and that. And, like, who he is and his motivations. So, yeah. If you know the comics, not really for you. This movie was definitely made for casual fans in mind. It was definitely an overcorrection on Warner Brothers' part because they thought the Snyderverse was too dark and gritty and this, that, and the other. So they went full Marvel the whole way with the jokes and the social media and the TikTok trends and whoopity-doo, and then of course the dog. We gotta market the dog. We gotta have the toys and everything. So. And then I'll end it with this. It's, I don't know if it's a good omen or a bad omen on the movie, but, it's bad when, I'm walking out of the theater once the movie's over, and the kids in the theater are all like, those post-credit scenes were a waste of time. And I just kind of looked at them and said, well, this is made for you. So, there you go. All in all is, I give Superman a 4 out of 10. I didn't really enjoy myself. I was kind of cringing in my seat the whole time. And, some people were like, I don't know, it was a pretty silent theater. I didn't really hear, woo, and cheers, because I hear, the movie's getting a lot of positive reviews from people. They're saying it's the best comic book movie ever. And I'm just kind of thinking, oh man, we gave up the Snyderverse for this. I mean, I don't really know. It didn't really do anything different. It really didn't differentiate itself from both the Richard Donner Superman films and Zack Snyder. So I don't know. I mean, if this is like the kickoff to the new DC universe, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it's a film I would never see again. And, it only exists in my memory and this review that I'm making for y'all. So, yeah. Okay, so welcome to the spoiler section. I think I'm just going to ramble for about 20 minutes. I'm just going to pretend the camera isn't rolling, so I'm just going to basically talk to myself here. So, but yeah, the movie, man, it was a lot. I honestly think it was made for the TikTok generation. Lots of cuts, lots of fast-paced zooming action, which is fine. I like my my action to be fast and cool and, loose. I love the John Wick movies. Those are great. But man, I don't know. I really don't know. It's just such a whiplash from like what you expect from the Snyderverse. Like, just grounded in reality, which I draw a lot of comparison to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. They had fantastical elements to it, like you got a Green Goblin and Doc Ock and Venom running around, but they kind of fell within the confines of some reality where it's believable, but man. So yeah, I mean, first things first is like Superman is he goes to the Fortress of Solitude. He's injured. And also, what's up with him? He screams the entire time he gets sunlight. Like, I know he's injured and kind of, pops his bones back into his body, but the first part was fine. And then, I'm just going to jump all over the place. When he was with Metamorpho had, he turned on kryptonite in his hands to weaken Superman so he wouldn't, get away in Lex's jail. And then, Metamorpho makes a mini sun, and Superman starts screaming. I'm like, bro, your bones weren't broken. You're you weren't beat up. You just had kryptonite on you, which, does weaken you and does kill you. But, the sun doesn't hurt you. And then, of course, in Zack Snyder's Superman, takes a nuke straight to the face. And then, he goes up into space, absorbs the sunlight, and then boom, he opens his eyes. Red flares and everything. He's, clearly not screaming and hurt. So, that's just one thing. And then, I don't know. Oh, and then, then Superman, back in the Fortress of Solitude, they're healing him. And then, Alan Tudyk's, I don't want to call him Gary, but Alan Tudyk's number 4 robot, he said, play his parents' Kryptonian message from Jor-El and Lara to, it helps soothe him. I was like, okay, cool. That's kind of weird. You grew up with your, Ma and Pa Kent for 30 years, but this alien projection, you don't know them, but that one soothes you. But they kind of tied it up at the end, so, whatever. So yeah, and then half the message is destroyed. So they recover it later on in the movie. Oh my gosh, what they did to Jor-El, terrible. So basically, after the kaiju fight and they kill the kaiju, Lex Luthor was able to infiltrate the Fortress of Solitude because he basically made a clone of Superman with Ultraman. That's how he was able to get in, because the FFS knows his DNA. So he leaks he's able to reconstruct the message, fix the message that Jor-El sent out. And man, apparently Jor-El said, yeah, we're going to send you to Earth. We want you to rule over as the last son of Krypton. Spread your seed and create a secret harem to repopulate the earth and bring Krypton back. And I was like, what? Jor-El, the scientist, the philosopher, the father. That's basically what General Zod wanted in Man of Steel. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they would do that to my boy Jor-El. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, I couldn't believe it. Anyway, whatever. So that happens, and then that pretty much kicks off everyone's, like, they don't trust Superman anymore. And it's crazy, because they turn on Superman, like, on a dime. It was crazy. They, like, heard this message. They were like, well, he saved us. And then somebody in the movie was straight up like, he's grooming us. Why would you say, interesting phrasing there. Go on, some water. Interesting phrase. It couldn't say, oh, he's, lulling us into a false sense of security. Oh, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, something like that. No, they had to throw out, the G word in there, which, Anywho. But yeah, these people, like, turn on Superman on a dime, which was so weird. And, of course, I think back to Spider-Man. And then, like, J. Jonah Jameson, how many times did he print newspaper articles saying, oh, Spider-Man's a crook, he's a villain, I want pictures of Spider-Man, I want him thrown in jail. And then the people of New York, they were a little slow to, they didn't automatically just jump into pandemonium and, but that might be a commentary on cancel culture of, like, it was true. It was true what Jor-El said, as much as I don't like it. But, Superman was doing all these heroic things and you turn on him on a dime. I don't know. It just felt a little bit jarring. And then they do the same thing with Lex Luthor, too, which, same thing. Like, they posted that he was behind everything and all this, that, and the other. And then the people turn on Lex Luthor on a dime. So I'm thinking, if I made an announcement that, I'm going to blow up the Earth's core, people are going to, like, take me seriously and, pandemonium erupts. I don't know. I thought it was just a bit jarring. But anyway, that, I just hated what they did with Jor-El. Like, he's not a warmonger. He's a scientist. He's, level-headed. The genocide and the repopulation, that's General Zod's thing, And then that leads me to my, next point. I even wrote notes for this review for the first time. I wrote down comparisons to Zack Snyder Superman and then the Richard Donner film. So I'm going to start with Zack Snyder. Lex causes a foreign conflict to frame Superman. So in BVS, he starts, he's behind Superman going into the village and then laser beaming people. And then they think, oh, Superman's dangerous. He can't be trusted. Well, in this movie, Lex is working with the president of not Israel and sparking the conflict and luring Superman into the country and stopping this conflict, thus sowing those seeds of distrust with the government and then, like, how to stop him. And then my next point, that leads to my next point. The government doesn't trust him because he's an alien. Because of that conflict, so he's acting with impunity. We got to stop him. This, that, and the other. Oh, and another thing. Superman kills Ultraman. Though he doesn't know it, but he throws Ultraman into a black hole. Even though he's a clone, throws him in a black hole. Can Superman survive a black hole? I don't know. He spends, 95% of this movie getting beat up, so a black hole, I don't know. Matthew McConaughey survived a black hole in Interstellar, so maybe. I don't know. So yeah, like, what's up with that? He didn't, like, try to reason with his clone, or, like, I don't know, it could have been like a Bizarro situation. Maybe he does turn into Bizarro, he falls in the black hole, turns into Bizarro, and then, he does that. But yeah, like, I'm gonna say Superman straight up killed the guy. There you go. And that was, like, the biggest thing people hated about Man of Steel. Like, Kal-El, he snapped Zod's neck, even though Zod was straight up like, yeah, either I die or you do. He gave his ultimatum. right there. And then 5 seconds later, Mr. Terrific's like, hey, what are you doing down there? He's like, oh, I'm doing important stuff. Oh, oh, here's a joke. I flung someone into a black hole. So, I don't know, things like that. So now I'm going to switch over to comparisons to the Donner films. Lex infiltrates the Fortress of Solitude, just like in Superman 2. And then he destroys, pretty much destroys it. And then Lex has another land scene, or like a land scheme of, apparently he wants half of not Israel in exchange for not Israel invading not Palestine. So they, broker a deal that way so he can create his utopia or whatever. So I'm like, are you serious? This is just what Gene Hackman did. And that was like a huge complaint. I just feel like time is a flat circle with this franchise. It's just, I'm just going to go off on a tangent. Superman is one of the most easily adapted characters. Like, just look at Superman the animated series. There's so many stories you can pull from. And, of course they did a little bit in the Zack Snyder universe with it culminating with Darkseid. But Superman has so many villains, Brainiac, Metallo, Toyman. Like my vote for the next villain should have been Brainiac. It should have been Brainiac, or Lex Luthor finds Brainiac, and then he partners up with like all the upcoming AIs. It could have been a commentary about the dangers of AI, Brainiac being Brainiac, Brainiac betraying Lex Luthor, but Lex Luthor having a trump card between, because he's Lex Luthor. That could be like, one step ahead, even ahead of AIs. That could have been cool. That could have been a cool point, So Brainiac should have been the villain in this movie, I think, because this Lex, I don't know, he didn't differentiate himself enough. I know a lot of people hate Jesse Eisenberg's neurotic Lex Luthor. I mean, I was okay with it because it was so different. Like, it wasn't, the con man Gene Hackman, which, I love Gene Hackman to death. I love his Lex Luthor. But he wasn't the Lex of the comic. Like Clancy Brown's Lex Luthor from the animated series. Now that is the Lex Luthor. Like, he's like, he has this aura, like the same aura I wanted from Superman. The opposite. Like Superman, he comes in, he's all like, oh man, that's Superman, like my boy, all right. And then Lex Luthor, he walks in, like he's the focal point of the room. He's like, okay, this guy is actually the smartest man in the room. Like, he believes he's the smartest man in the room, and then because he is, so he just channels that aura. So like when these two opposing forces meet, it's about to go down. You can feel it. I didn't feel it, especially even in the part when Superman like busts in into the room and said, "Hey, where's Crypto?" Because Lex took his dog. I don't know. I just didn't really feel these two titans of the DC universe coming together and giving off that energy. Because like there were so many things happening, I couldn't really process. And that's another thing in the movie is they didn't let anything breathe or like to have weight in it. And man, there's this one scene where Clark and Lois are having a relationship problems. I'm like, okay, cool, we'll learn a little bit more. But like outside their window, there's an alien, or they said an interdimensional being, attacking the city. But the Justice Gang is out there, taking care of it. But like for the sake of a joke, Superman's like, oh, they got it covered, no worries. In what world is Superman just going to sit by and be like, the city's under attack? Nah, those guys have it. Nah, there's no way. Spider-Man wouldn't let that happen. Captain America wouldn't let that happen. Iron Man, Tony Stark, he might. If he was like wasted, he'd be like, oh, whatever, I just don't see Superman. Hey, he would jump in action, be like, hey Lois, put a pin in this. I'll be right back. I just couldn't believe. I was wincing in my seat. I couldn't believe. He's like, oh man, whatever, that's fine. I don't even know what Lois and Clark were arguing about because, like they were, just like talking or like arguing. Anyway, oh yeah. So, I don't know, I went off like on a huge tangent. This review is going to be all over the place. So, if you're still watching, that's amazing. Thank you. Oh, and then swinging back to my Richard Donner comparisons, like the title screen and then the credits, the title screen and credits, and then the John Williams being sprinkled in. That's also in the movie. It's like, hey, remember, it's just like back then. like Superman the movie came out in 1978, which is what, over 50 years ago. Like 50 years of movie making, and we're still doing the same thing. And then, you know, even though Zack Snyder is controversial, he did something different, you know, like everything from the movie. Like I watched Man of Steel before I watched this movie, you know, the night before. And then, you know, just, you know, these movies are night and day, I guess pun intended, since Zack is so dark. And so, yeah, we're just like, you know, doing all these callbacks, not doing anything like original. So, I don't know. It's just like, oh, you know, like this is what general audiences want, is to just repeat the same thing. But on the other hand, people are complaining that Hollywood isn't original anymore. So it's just, you know, I don't know. It's a conundrum. Like, do we want different things or the same? I mean, of course, I want something different. I want something I haven't seen before, or something I've seen before but executed, you know, smartly, subtly, with a great script and great writing, which this film doesn't really have. So yeah. Oh, and a couple things I did like in the spoiler, you know, in my spoiler section here. Mr. Terrific, of course, you know, he's like, oh my gosh, do you need any help closing this portal? He's like, nah, I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific. And I'm like, haha, yeah. So if it was just a Mr. Terrific movie, I would, you know, I would have happy camper. But, man, and then, I like the halal cart guy. I was like, dang, you know. So the halal cart guy, like Superman, you know, gets thrown into the ground, and then he creates like a little crater, and then halal cart guy like runs up and saves him. I'm like, oh crap, you know. At first I thought he was like a random like bystander, and then like they know each other. I think his name was like Alik or something like that. And Superman's like, oh Alik, you know, you all right? He's like, yeah, Superman, you know, get up like last time or something like that. So they knew each other. Like, okay, cool. And then later on in the film, when Lex is holding him in his jail, he like captures a leak and was all like, yeah, I'm gonna kill everyone you've ever come in contact with. I was like, oh dang, this Lex ain't playing around. And then, you know, the halal cart guy was like, oh Superman, it was an honor for you to have my food. You know, and you could really tell his emotions, like, oh dang, this dude's in danger. And then Lex, you know, does like Russian roulette, and then he's like bang, and straight up kills him. I was like, whoa. I was like, okay, maybe this movie's gonna take a turn. I was like, yo, Lex Luthor flipping the script, Superman better look, buckle down, it's gonna go. No, it's just like he pens off, you know, nothing of that ever, you know, comes back again. And that was it. That was the end of that. So, so yeah, that was one scene where I like jumped out. I was like, oh man, this movie's getting real. Now, then it just devolves into they like get lost in this pocket universe, and then Superman's about to get sucked in another black hole. But like, if there's already a black hole, well, I guess because it was becoming unstable. Like, why wasn't it sucking everything in? But it was becoming unstable. I remember now. So yeah, Mr. Terrific guides him out. And then, boom, and then he's got to stop Lex Luthor. Then that's when he finds out Ultraman's his clone, kills Ultraman, and then pretty much the movie's over. They frame Lex Luthor. Oh, and then another thing. Why was Lois, Jimmy, Perry, and like two other reporters in the ship? Like, all they needed to do was like upload a PDF online, and then they floated, you know, why was she like piloting the Terrific ship? Like, they didn't add it. I was like, oh man, they're going to like rescue people, or they're going to go like tell Superman, oh my gosh, you know, Lex was behind everything. They're just like floated around on the Mr. T ship, your Mr. Terrific ship, and then just uploaded a PDF. And then of course my mind was like, well, how do they have Wi-Fi in there? And then I was like, I don't think Mr. Terrific's going to have an unsecured public Starbucks Wi-Fi in there. So yeah, so I'm just gonna assume they had like a mobile hotspot and they just like uploaded it. But like, I don't know. And then within 5 minutes, of course, they turn on Lex Luthor because they uploaded it to all the news channels. And then, oh, he's actually working with not Israel's president and blah 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 blah. And then everyone's like, boo, Lex Luthor, boo. And then, oh, everyone loves Superman again within like 2 seconds. I don't know. It's just, this movie was. I don't think this movie was made for me. You know, which is sad because I think movies like this should be made for everybody. It should be, you know, well written, you know, funny at times. You know, they're jokes, but they're not gags. You know, I remember one of the director said that. That's always stuck with me. You make jokes, but you don't do gags. Like one scene where Superman and Lex are having this back and forth. Superman's like, oh, I'm human. I make mistakes. I cry, this, that, and the other. And then, before even Lex could be like, oh, dang, you're right. Dang, like Crypto jumps in and like starts, beating him up. Kind of like Loki in the Avengers. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw that. I'm like, I think the biggest thing, this movie doesn't do anything different. It doesn't surprise you. First of all, like, they put the entire movie in the trailer, so like there's nothing in there for you to be like, oh man, what? I wasn't expecting that. I think because Warner Brothers really wants this movie to succeed because, they want to make their money. But it sounds like a lot of people like it though, which I don't really know why, But, it is what it is. And I thought it was a weird plot point. Like they said, kind of a throwaway line. They said, "Oh, all the kryptonite on Earth has been destroyed." Like, did Superman did that? Like, did he do that, or like, did someone else do that? So like, the only kryptonite in the movie is like this. So it kind of like you kind of write yourself into a hole. Like, in this universe, there's no kryptonite. So, the only other equalizer to Superman now is magic, because Superman is weak to magic. Magic now. So, what do we do then? Or they just ask Metamorpho to make kryptonite forever. I don't really know. So yeah, and then I don't know. And then towards the end of the movie, Supergirl shows up. I'm like, oh snap, it's the girl from House of the Dragon. And then she shows up and is all like, hey, I'm Waste. She's like a party girl. And then Superman specifically says she likes to party off planet with a red sun because their metabolism doesn't let them get drunk. I was like, well, under a red sun you lose your powers. Like, how do you get off world? Do you fly? Are you on a spaceship? Like, they didn't answer that. You don't see her in a spaceship. She comes like crashing in through the ceiling. So, like, how does she get off world? I don't know. It's just things like that. If you know the comics, you're just like, what's the dealio? So. But yeah, all in all, yeah, I don't think this movie is made for me. I think it was definitely made for more casual audiences. And yeah, definitely won't see this movie again. I'm definitely going to stick to my 4 rating. There was like a couple. Oh my gosh. Okay. We're not done yet. I just remember something else. Superman's, Earth parents. What was going on with that? I don't think people in Kansas have a Southern accent. It's the Midwest. Like, they have their own accent, but like Lois brings Clark because he has kryptonite poisoning back to his home in Kansas, and then his dad is all like, "Is our boy gonna be okay?" I was like, "What is this?" Like, had it been Smallville, Alabama, or Smallville, McLeansville. Yeah, I would believe it. I'm like, okay, oh, cool. In this universe, he grew up in the South. But in the Midwest, they don't really have a Southern accent. And then his mom is all like, hey, honey, there's something on the box for you to see. And then it's the TV. I'm like, bro, like, if this was Superman's grandparents, okay, I could see, whatever, fine. But, like, he can't be that old, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. And then they couldn't like work a smartphone, and they were just like straight up stereotypical hillbillies. Like, oh, he's just a big mush when it comes to our son. And it's like, these people found an alien aircraft, were able to forge Social Security documents, pretty much lie to the world and keep this secret for like 33 years, and talking like this when they couldn't even like work a cell phone. So it's like, I think I'm just overthinking it too much. I mean, it's fine if a film makes mistakes or like some plot holes, but man, there's just like if you just sit and think about this movie, just let the get past the jangling keys and the flashing lights, you're just like, huh, there's a lot of questions that I kind of need answering here. So all in all, I'm just gonna close this review by saying, I think kids will like it. Definitely more for casual fans if you don't know the source material, if you don't know the comic books, kind of like I do, or watch the TV show that you see Superman. go through all these things. I think that's the problem. I think we won't be able to get like a proper Superman movie, because when you make a movie, you're gonna have to shove in like, oh, is it part of this universe? We gotta like put in all these heroes. We gotta set this up, instead of just letting it be Superman. We gotta put in Batman. Which Batman isn't even in this movie. Surprisingly, I couldn't believe that. And then it's just like that corporate meddling, where it's like we gotta inject this character. The more characters, the better. Woo! Instead of just letting Superman be Superman. So that's all. That's all I gotta say about that. And yeah, those are my closing thoughts. Superman gets a 4 out of 10 for me, and I will not see it again.